Happy Tuesday, all you minties! It is time for an advanced look at collected editions coming out from Marvel Comics this week, so stay tuned! And welcome back, everybody. Before getting started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks in Marvel for sending us advanced copies of these collected editions. All these books are due out in the direct market and book market on October 27th. There are a couple of other books that are coming out this week, like I believe it's the Marvel Projects reprint trade paperback, and there's an Immortal Hulk that collects a bunch of one-shots, but I didn't get either of those, but I did want to talk about these books right here. So excited to talk about one in particular. But we have trade paperbacks, we have a Marvelverse book, a complete collection, and a Marvel Masterwork. So let's go ahead and get started again. As always, I put timestamps in the description of the video to help you navigate through the books that you want to look at. Kicking off this week, we have the Marvelverse Hawkeye trade paperback here. Again, these are the ones that are smaller in scale. Here we go, compared to a trade paperback. Of course, retailing a little bit cheaper than a trade. These are $9.99. So these serve as the pure purpose to introduce new readers to these older characters that have been around for a while. I'm a big fan of the covers. These have been coming out for the last couple of years, but I like the image of the character, and then in the background it's this negative black and white images of just certain panels from the comics. But here we have Marvelverse Hawkeye, and what they do through these, here's all the other books that are available, is collect different eras of the characters, and then also collect these the adventure books, which aren't really canon, but they do a really good job of catching people up on who the character is supposed to be. At least they capture their essence in a way. But here we have Marvel Adventures, The Avengers, number 16, as well as number 17 collected in here. Hawkeye, the very first time, that's the one where he meets Mockingbird, issue number 1. Avengers 223, that's the classic cover with Ant-Man. Generations, Hawkeye, and Hawkeye. And I'll talk a little bit about that here in a few. But here's the Marvel Adventures. Like I said, those are usually non-canon, but here is the very first single issue of Hawkeye by Mark Gruenwald. And this is the one where poor guy gets his heart broken, but he meets Mockingbird, and of course that leads into future relationships. And this is the cover I was talking about right here from 223. I think that's a fan favorite cover. And this one's written by Devin McElhinney, and it's him taking on the Taskmaster with Ant-Man. This is an awesome issue, honestly. This is the other Marvel Adventures, number 17, teaming up with Iron Man. But the issue I wanted to talk about, because people were asking if this was going to be in here, is this right here. And that is Generations, Hawkeye and Hawkeye. So now we're talking about Kate Bishop and Clint Barton. And of course, Kate Bishop is the character that appeared in Young Avengers. She went over to star in Hawkeye. She's been part of many different teams in the Marvel Universe and getting her own show. And her own show is like the Matt Fraction run of Hawkeye, which she was a big part of. And that's the way it seems, especially when you have Lucky the dog there. But this is a time travel series here with Generations. There was a Wolverine Generations, there was a Thor Generations, Captain America Generations, and it's this new generation of characters meeting the original characters who they got their namesake from. That's one thing I don't know if people are aware of or not, why she's called Hawkeye. During the time when Kate Bishop became Hawkeye, Clint Barton was dead. It was after the events of Avengers Disassembled. So that's why she took on the name. And then when he came back, I remember there was this talk of like, why couldn't two characters have the same name? DC does it all the time. I mean, it made sense. So anyway, this is the Generations issue right here. This one's written by Kelly Thompson. Let's look in the back here for some extras. So we have some variants to the Generations here. That's the one by Martina. And again, other Marvelverse books. The book, again, retails for $9.99 and has 120 pages. Next up is Black Knight, Curse of the Ebony Blade. So this one's written by Cy Spurrier, but it is co-written by Sergio Davila. And here is what the spine looks like. I'll be showing off all the spines here in a little bit. And then the back of the book. And of course, what is the Ebony Chalice. Book retails for $15.99. This collects the Black Knight Curse of the Ebony Blade miniseries, issues 1 through 5. This spins out of the King in Black issue, which featured, of course, Dane Whitman and the Ebony Blade. And the Ebony Blade, of course, had ties to Null. It had ties to all these symbiotes that were coming to Earth. Because I think most of us kind of expected that whenever we heard that Black Knight was going to be in the King in Black event. Not play a big role, but kind of expected with somebody running around with the Ebony Blade. So what Cy Spurrier and Sergio Davila do in this particular series is explore the character of Dane Whitman and what it means to be the Black Knight. How he's not really the original Black Knight and what that legacy means. There's a lot of things that happen in here that I was a little confused about. That I don't know if it's new or if it's been retconned, because the Black Knight is my favorite Avenger. And they added things in here that I hadn't read before. So I'm not sure if something happened from the time that Dane Whitman stopped becoming an Avenger. I know he ran around with the Exiles during the Malibu years. Yeah, that's a whole different story. I don't think that stuff can ever be reprinted, really. It's a whole new universe. But was it the Exiles? I think it was the Exiles. No, that was Juggernaut and Sienna Blaze. I think he was part of another team. Anyway, where the hell was I? Oh, yes. So it seems like Spurrier started adding elements that I hadn't heard of, and I think that's okay. Like, there's some things that he mentions in here. There's this character of Jax that's introduced. We also get the return of a couple of other characters. One I'll keep a surprise, but the other one that is a big deal to me that I was happy to see her show up is this particular character here. And that is Elsa Bloodstone. So that's what she's doing. She's looking for the Bloodstones because someone's going around killing all these historians. So it's a murder mystery as to who's doing it. And if you're not familiar with the character of Black Knight, him donning that sword, he has to learn to control his rage because it feeds on all that. It feeds on hate and rage. He has this lust for mayhem and blood. So, of course, he's learned to control that throughout the years. There's a couple of guest appearances in here that really pull at the heartstrings for me. But I wanted to show this piece right here. That is one of my favorite covers. I thought that was Dan Mora when I first saw this, but it's Peach Momoko. Freaking beautiful. I love it. I think it's part of her portfolio, if I'm not mistaken. And I just forgot about it until it appeared here. Now, like I said, this book has all 5 issues of the miniseries collected in here. It has 112 pages, just showcasing some of the artwork in here and some of the designs for the Black Knight, looking more like his predecessor a little more. And let's go back here to show some more of this stellar artwork. I love the colors that are used in this particular volume. So there is a secret with the Ebony Chalice that's in the back. There's always a price when somebody drinks it. And let's look in the back here for some extras. I will say that the series ends on not a cliffhanger, but it does end on hopefully we'll see more of the Black Knight later on. So this is the original Black Knight right there. And then the redesigns, there's the headshot there by Todd Knock. Glad to see that Elsa got her own cover. Been a fan of her since Next Wave. That one's by Ron Lim. And then some more variants back here. It's good to see him get a series, even though I'm sure this has to do more with the fact that Dane is going to appear in the Eternals movie. As a matter of fact, they advertise the Eternals right here. But being my favorite Avenger from those leather jacket years, him and Cersei, like, it's just good to see him get his own miniseries, and hopefully this will lead to more. Children of the Atom, Volume 1, by Vita Ayala, Bernard Chang, and Paco Medina. This book retails for $17.99 and collects Children of the Atom 1 through 6 and then material for Marvel Voices number 1. So when I did my overview of one of the Reign of X anthologies, they included issue number 1 of Children of the Atom in there, drawn by Bernard Chang, who I really enjoy his artwork. Reminds me a little bit of Kev Walker, Carlos Pacheco, or Salvador La Roca, like old school Salvador La Roca and Carlos Pacheco. But The story didn't really grasp me. I didn't really, how do I put it, care for some of these kids, or any of them really. I didn't connect with them. I know that there was a secret because towards the end of the first issue there was a cliffhanger. Now, my favorite thing about this though is that they brought back the Hell's Bells. And anybody that has read Peter David's X Factor run knows who the Hell's Bells are, I'm sure, because those female characters kind of stood out. They were designed by Larry Stroman, so they were all bigger and thicker, these characters right here. And just looked so much different than any of the villains that the X-Men have fought. So anyway, this is the story about these 5 teenagers. You have Cherub, you have Gimmick, you have Marvel Guy, you've got Day Crawler, and you have Cyclops Lass. Those are the 5 characters carrying on the legacy of the X-Men. And at the end of the first issue, the X-Men invite them over to Krakoa, because that's where all the mutants are going. And they refuse to go. This is when Paco Medina takes over the book. And they refuse to go and stay behind and decide to help out humanity from here. But there's also a secret, too, that's not revealed until, I think, the 5th or 6th issue. So that's what the basic premise is. It's these 5 kids that are wanted by the police because they're vigilante kids, and we have the whole Kamala Law going on during the Marvel Universe at this time. And then the X-Men keep inviting them over to Krakoa. That's pretty much it. What this ended up reminding me of was the New Warrior story. I think it's Volume 4, mixed with a little bit of Young Avengers. That's what this ended up reminding me of more than Young X-Men or New X-Men or New Mutants for that matter. Because it didn't feel like the kids wanted to belong with the X-Men, even though they were carrying their legacy on. Anyway, it's not a review of the book, just showcasing the art. And damn, I love Paco Medina's artwork. As far as the extras, all the extras are back here in between the ending of the 6th issue and the material from Marvel Voices. And yes, there is a returning character that I did not expect to see ever back, but here we are. There we go. I love that these Jim variants are recolored Jim Lee pieces of art usually. Here's what the variants look like. It's a beautiful piece right there by Bernard Chang. And there's Gimmick having to make choices. So yes, she is invited to the Hellfire Gala. That's what issue number 6 is about. And here's the material from Marvel Voices. I love. That's one thing I will say that I did appreciate about this is that they're fans of Forge. Because nobody's a fan of Forge. I thought I was the only guy that loved Forge. But I don't know. Maybe there's more of us out there. The book, by the way, has 184 pages. And again, retails for $17.99. Black Widow by Kelly Thompson, Volume 2. I Am the Black Widow. I reviewed Volume 1, or I did an overview of Volume 1, but I couldn't help to keep my thoughts to myself because I freaking fell in love with the book. Kelly Thompson was exploring things about Tasha here that I didn't see people had done before. And I enjoyed this one just as much as Volume 1. Maybe it's hard to follow up Volume 1 when you kick Volume 1 the way that it kicked off. So this takes place after the events of Volume 1, which destroyed Natasha Romanoff. Like, it made her question who she was and what she was capable of doing, how heartless she really is, or how heartless she thought she could be, but really cares deep down inside. So we see this pit pocket right here. This is Lucy, and eventually her and Yelena decide that, hey, maybe it's time to recruit some help. So that's what happens in this particular volume. She rescues Lucy. There's something else going on. There's a new villain in San Francisco named the Apogee, so she has to return there. And let me just show you some of this badass artwork. By the way, she gets a new suit in this too. And we see the return. Look at this. This is what I'm talking about. Where I was going to say we see also see the return of one of my favorite characters, Anya, the Spider-Girl. I love that both Rafael de la Torre and Elena Casagrande, both of the artists on the book, do these kind of 2-page spreads. like following the action. It's badass. Same thing that they did in Volume 1. So we also get, like I mentioned, the return of this character right here, Anya, who of course is Spider-Girl. And together, they're going to form this team to take down this new villain. And of course, Lucy has her own little secrets. She's not just some street rat that's pickpocketing people. But want to showcase the artwork. I really enjoyed this book. And completely honest, when I do my top 10 reads of 2020, I think Volume 1 is definitely going to be on there. It was just that good. It was that fun to read. It was something new that they have done with a character that has been around since the 60s. So I really enjoyed it. I don't know if anybody else is reading this series or if you're waiting for trade paperback, but this is a series that I would love to see collected one day in oversized format. I don't know if there's going to be enough for an omnibus. I really hope it keeps going because the story really sets up a lot of things they could do in the future, but maybe an oversized hardcover. This is the variant right here. Mark Brooks provides the variants, and then on the opposite pages are the regular covers. And as far as the back here, nothing in the back because that's where they collect the variants, on the opposite side of the regular covers. The book has 112 pages and collects issues 6 through 10 of the 2020 Black Widow series by Kelly Thompson. Retails for $15.99. Look at this badass artwork. I'd love to see this in an oversized format. Thor by Jason Aaron, the Complete Collection, Volume 4. Here's what the spine looks like, which I've already shown off, and the back of the book featuring Unworthy Thor. The book retails for $39.99. Hey, why is Apocalypse looming over Thor's here? Oh, and this has one of my favorite, it might be my favorite Jason Aaron Thor story. So here's what is collected in this particular volume. Previously what's happened in Thor, and then we get some covers here. So it looks like they're doing the covers on the opposite side of the regular cover. On some collections, not all of them. So kicking it off with Unworthy Thor number 1. So this collects Unworthy Thor 1 through 5, Mighty Thor 20 to 23, Generations Unworthy Thor, and Mighty Thor 700 to 706, and Mighty Thor All the Gates of Valhalla number 1. I don't think that one's been collected in the trade paperbacks. I know it definitely was not collected in the oversized hardcovers, and neither was Unworthy Thor. Unworthy Thor was left out of the oversized hardcovers, and a lot of people were hoping that it would be in an omnibus, but I guess we'll see. It would be in volume 2, if any. But this one's drawn by Oliver Coppel, and of course written by Jason Aaron. And it tells the story of Thor and losing Mjolnir and what he's trying to do to make himself worthy. I think it's a great story. I'm glad that they kicked it off with this because you get this part of the story and then you get to see what's going on with the mighty Thor. And oh my god, this heartbreaking story right here of War Thor. Oh, this one's rough to read. I remember reading that and I'm like, I can't believe they did that. Holy crap. So we do have a new Thor that is born from rage and hate, and it's a loose cannon. And mighty Thor has to stop him from going crazy because he's becoming a madman, and that's what she has to do to stop him. So now we get some more Russell Dodderman artwork here later on, including the big issue 700. Actually, let's talk about the big anniversary issue. But not before we talk about Generations, when I just talked about Generations Hawkeye. When classic Thor, Unworthy Thor now, meets Mighty Thor. So here we have Apocalypse. This is where he appears in the past, because he's in Sabanur. So he's over Egypt during this time. And there's a little bit of a retcon back here, too, that I know made people upset, including me, because I'm a big X fan, but you can find out what that is by reading the ending of Generations there. And that leads to issue 700. So it gets a little confusing because of the renumbering, but Mighty Thor 20 to 23 lead into this. So Mighty Thor 24 is Mighty Thor 700. They just decided to go back to the legacy number. Here we have some talent like Walter Simonson, of course, Russell Dodderman, Simone Bianchi, Daniel Acuna, just drawing some of the artwork that's featured in this particular anniversary issue. It's a beautiful book. It sets up the stage for what will be called the War of the Realms. As a matter of fact, he's been setting up War of the Realms since he first did his God Bomb arc. But this really sets the stage as to who the key players will be for the War of the Realms and what will happen to the mighty Thor. So we have the return of Mangog here, one of the biggest badass characters in Thor. A character that looks the most Kirby-ish out of all the characters that you'll see in here, just because of his features and his character design. And during this, it's Cardinilla. During this time, how do I put this? The hammer that the mighty Thor is wielding is killing her. So every time that she uses her power, she starts to diminish more and more. So it becomes a health hazard for her to continue using the hammer. And that's what this last arc is about. It's a beautiful story. There's a lot of moments here that just are beautifully written and beautifully drawn. I don't want to show any of that towards the end there, but I will showcase this badass artwork. Just Russell Dodderman kicking all kinds of ass. This stuff has been printed in oversized hardcover format before, but it's just nice to see it again. It's absolutely beautiful. And of course, those OHCs are out of print, some of them. Alright, let's get to the extras back here, because this book has a lot of extras. It retails for $39.99 and has 464 pages. Just some variant covers here. The afterword of Unworthy Thor. The character designs of Unworthy Thor. War Thor. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Russell Dodderman just doing character sketches. That's awesome. Each one of these could be just a full-blown splash page. And the art process for the covers. Internal artwork here of Mighty Thor. And that's it. So we do have, I believe, one more volume of the complete collection, and that wraps up Jason Aaron's run on Thor. Last but certainly not least is my big pick of the week. Marvel Masterworks, The Tomb of Dracula, Volume 1. And here are some of the covers that are collected in here, retailing for $75. Well, because it is a Masterwork. Let's take the dust jacket off. And I hardly do this, but here's what the flaps look like on the inside of the dust jacket. Talking a little bit about the story that's collected in here with the Marvel Masterworks, and also available Marvel Masterworks. Of course, the book, the way it looks, is this leather finish to it. Tomb of Dracula Volume 1, nothing on the back, and then the logo here in the front. So what makes... I love this stuff here. I miss that being in Omnis. What makes this one stand out? What makes this one my pick of the week? Why? Because it's been available in complete collections. It's been available in trade paperbacks, essential editions, and omnibus edition. This is material that I've owned before, that I've sold my Omnis because I wanted to get the complete collections. So what makes this so unique, or what makes this so special? It's the Masterworks touch that they give it. It's the restoration of the art. I love when they do this stuff. So I'll do a comparison here to the complete collection in a little bit. And the other thing I was going to say is that all those books I just mentioned, including the Essential, are completely out of print. Just look at the prices of the complete collection. I think it's cheaper to get the Tomb of Dracula Omnibus Volume 1 than it is to get the complete collection Volume 1. You have an introduction from Roy Thomas, who did the plot of the first 2 issues and then became editor-in-chief at Marvel. And you have Marv Wolfman, who changed the character up when he took over the book. Here's your table of contents right here. So this collects Tomb of Dracula 1 through 11, and then material from Dracula Lives 1 and 2. And here's your introduction again. So yeah, Marv Wolfman didn't take on Tomb of Dracula until issue number 7. So we go from Tomb of Dracula. This is the first appearance of the modern age Dracula character in Marvel Comics, with Tomb of Dracula number 1. And again, I'll do a comparison here in a little bit of the art. And speaking of art, this is Gene Colan, who begged Stan Lee to not just pencil, but ink this issue of Tomb of Dracula. And it's funny reading the behind the scenes. That's something you didn't get in the omnibus, by the way, are the intros. That Stan Lee was telling him that, no, you're way too busy. You got other projects. Let somebody else ink it. But he was determined to ink this issue of Tomb of Dracula. And he finally did. So this is the end product. Probably some of the best Gene Colan artwork that he's ever made. So after Stan Lee and Roy Thomas did the plot with Jerry Conway supplying the script, it was Archie Goodwin that took over the book. So Archie Goodwin came over from Warren Publishing, and Warren is the publisher that was doing Eerie and Creepy magazine. Took over this issue, as a matter of fact, and Vampirella. So he was no stranger to the horror comics, and he wrote these 2 issues right here, and he didn't stay long. Not sure why. I think duty called him elsewhere. And then they had this legendary creator that wasn't getting any work at the time come in with issue number 5, and that is Gardner Fox, guy that had written JSA, Justice League, all these characters at DC Comics, and DC had kind of just pushed him away. And he came over to write the next few issues of Tomb of Dracula. He wrote issues 5 and 6. And honestly, these issues right here, reading them and rereading them again, they felt a little like they were missing something. There wasn't anything special about them. I will say that between issues 3 and 4, because you noticed that, I'm sure you did when I was flipping through here, that Dracula has this white pale face in these issues here. But between issues 3, so this is the last time you see him with that face, that color, he actually gets a flesh tone in issue number 4. Not that big of a deal, but, you know, as a kid, I think I would have noticed things like that. And in issue number 7 is when we get this team right here of Marv Wolfman coming in and writing the book. You have Gene Colan supplying the artwork, and you have Tom Palmer inking this wonderful story. And it's interesting to read Marv Wolfman's introduction because he had never seen any Dracula movies. Before he got the gig, he had enough time to write or read Bram Stoker's Dracula, so that's kind of what he went with. The angle he approached it, more about the people that Dracula was interacting with than actually Dracula himself. So that's the angle he went with, and that forever changed the history of the modern Marvel horror books. This became a huge hit, and so much so that there were 3 omnis of this stuff. So it's nice to see it fully restored and remastered for this particular edition of the Masterworks format. We also get the first appearance of this guy right here, Blade. And Wolfman talks about, interesting to hear him talk about this in the introduction, talking about diversity and why he decided to make Blade black. I like that. I like that both of these writers remember things. Like, I've always mentioned that Roy Thomas is just a national treasure because his memory is just so intact. He remembers things and places and where he was, just to the detail of what he was drinking when he was talking to one of the editors or one of the writers. But let's get to the extras here. The one thing that I do miss that was in the omnibus, that of course they never do in the Masterworks, at least I don't think they don't do in the Masterworks, and by all means, please correct me if I'm wrong, and that is the letter pages. I do miss looking at the letter pages. I wish they had added them in here. But they never do that for Epic Collections. They never do it for Masterworks or trade paperbacks. Those are mainly kept for the omnibus editions. But none of the letter pages are here. And let's get to the back here at the extras. Oh, no, actually, before we look at the extras, let's look at this right here. The Dracula Lives. These particular stories. And one thing that they do here is they tell you that they are only reprinting stories that are referenced in Tomb of Dracula. So the stories that are featured in here are the stories that are only referenced in Tomb of Dracula because the magazine became its own thing. Like, you didn't need to read both of them. Kind of like Savage Sword of Conan became its own thing, separate from the original Marvel comics. That's what the magazine did. So you have the work in here from Steve Gerber and Rich Buckler supplying the artwork for the black and white magazine. So it's just a couple of stories in here, 1 and 2, from Dracula Lives, that are collected. As long as they are mentioned, I think it's Neil Adams, isn't it? Yeah, Neil Adams in this one. I don't think he got to do part 2 of that, though. Just to see Neil Adams' artwork in black and white. But as long as these were referenced in the original Tomb of Dracula comics. That's why they are reprinted here. And they also included Dracula Lives #3. I know that I said 1 and 2 because that's what the solicitations said, but they also included material from Tomb of Dracula #3. So it looks like this was added at the last minute. There was a booty shot right there. Sorry about that. We got to keep it classy in here. Well, that was a classy booty shot, though. That wasn't, like, gratuitous. All right. Here's some of the original pages. This is Gene Colan's beautiful artwork right here. And then you have Gene Colan inked by Tom Palmer right there. Original art for the cover to issue #5. So this is pretty funny. This comes from the Marvel Archives. This is page 12 of issue #5. And in the top right-hand corner is the oatmeal recipe from the creative team. I like when they find things like that. That's awesome. It's original photocopy. This is interesting. This is when they had to change the dialogue. So in the original dialogue for the cover, Blade was saying, "Drop that girl, Dracula, or this wooden knife goes right through your heart." And I guess the comics code said, it's a little too much. So they dropped it to, "Drop that girl, Dracula, or this wooden knife will finish you off forever." And speaking of the comics code, I find it interesting that some of the things that they were able to get away with in these issues, I think they were trying to like cross that line a little bit, testing the waters. But I like that. So I guess on covers it was a no-go, but the internal artwork, they were thinking, well, maybe let's test what we can do. Here's some original art by Neil Adams from the Dracula Lives magazine. And then some of the, I think this is a reprint right here by Gene Colan. And the biographies, and sadly a lot of these folks aren't no longer with us, like Gene Colan and Rich Buckler, Gardner Fox. Oh my goodness, Gardner Fox has been gone since the 80s, and of course Archie Goodwin. But it's always nice to know the history of these writers and artists that, you know, help build a lot of people's childhoods and put these characters in their lives. I love that they do bios in every one of the Masterworks. Now, something I do want to do is compare some of the art restoration to the Tomb of Dracula Complete Collection. These are the scans and the masters that they've used for the trade paperbacks and the omnis. So that's what I wanted to do. Let's look at this, of course, classic cover. So just looking at the two covers, this one here in the Complete Collection looks like it's a little bit darker, a little bit muddled, the artwork, whereas this one is a little cleaner, and the artwork seems to be a little brighter. Now, because of the way the pages are mapped, I'm putting the Complete Collection on the right-hand side right now, and immediately what I notice are the cross-hatchings that are in the Masterworks. They seem to be a little more cross-hatching going on here, a little more lines of detail than in the Complete Collection. See what I mean? The lines are disappearing up here. Hope you could tell. Let's zoom in a little more so you can tell, at least with these two panels. And on the Masterwork here's on the left, and Complete Collection here's on the right. And see what I mean? There's more lines right there for shadowing, especially up here, where these just kind of disappear. It's that kind of restoration that you're going to see a lot of. The color's different here on the girl. Her face is more defined, whereas here it's a little blurry to see her face. And over here it's been restored. Just more details and more definitions to the background. And of course getting closer to those original colors than the previous volumes. So even the coats have changed a little bit. This looks a little more purple, whereas this is just a gray coat here. See the color right there with the lightning lighting up the background. A lot of people won't even notice the difference. A lot of people would be happy just with their Complete Collection, and that's it. They don't need restoration like that. But there are a lot of people that really appreciate the small details, that really want the artwork to be the way that they remember it, or as close to the original as they can get it. And that's what this is. That's what the Marvel Masterwork line is. Like I said, not everything is going to be noticeable right away. It's just some things you're going to be able to notice from these scans right here to the new remastered scans. More detail lines, more definition. It's exactly what you're going to be seeing. And even the colors are a little bit brighter than they are here in the Complete Collection. Now, that's not going to be a big deal to a lot of people, but there are some people that appreciate art and want it to be as close to the original as possible. Whether it's the colors they remember, or whether it's a single line that's missing from a face, or the details in the background. And that is why this line is so popular, because this is where people come to expect these restorations. Now, in some pages you'll be able to tell a lot more than others. And before I end the video, I did want to show the differences in the back here with the black and white artwork from the Dracula Lives magazine. So, again, the art is not grainy over here. The color separation is a lot better in this edition than in this particular complete collection. I got the Masterwork here on the left and the complete collection here on the right. But that's it. That, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing any of these books, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely and in excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and page count of each of these collected editions. Let me know in the comments down below which ones you are excited to pick up, which ones you're hoping that will be included in some kind of oversized hardcover format someday, an omnibus perhaps. If you're waiting for a Tomb of Dracula omnibus reprint, or if you're going to go for the Marvel Masterworks. Or Thor, are you going to wait for the inevitable Volume 2 of Jason Aaron's run omnibus, or are you happy with the complete collections? Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to smash that like button, ring that bell for notifications to let you know when our videos are going live. Speaking of live, tonight at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time is Old Reader, New Reader. And on Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we are doing a review of The Long Halloween. It's a live episode, so come and join us and talk about Batman The Long Halloween. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. And everyone, please stay healthy and stay safe out there. Much love.